In this lesson, we'll explore the process of creating solid bodies and adding solid features to the part. We'll do this while we create a fixture. The fixture will be designed to hold this part, which we call the chain guard. So we're going to use the geometry in this part and extract it to get the features for our fixture, which will then be used to hold this part down while machining. First, I'm going to turn off the part geometry, and I'm going to delete the geometry on our temp level here. If I right click, I can just hit delete entities, and all the geometry on that level gets deleted. Now I can't delete this level right now because it's the active level. So let's make 101 the active level. Then I can right click, go down to clear empty levels, and click selected, and that'll delete that level. I'm going to turn on part geometry, and I'm also going to turn on level 106 and make it active. And you'll notice, like we did early on in this lesson, we created a rectangle that's at the bottom of this part. I noticed my Z value here is now set to 0. I'm going to make sure that it's still set to the bottom of the part by selecting it. Now we'll see it's set to minus 15.5. I'm also going to turn off level 10, which is the part geometry, and I'm going to make 101 the active level. This is where our solid will be created. So let's right click, go to the top view. I'll take this geometry, which is on level 106, and I'll extrude it. I'm going to go to the solids tab and click on extrude. And similar to when we did the fillet chains option, we get presented with a wireframe chaining dialog. I'm going to accept the defaults and just select this outside line here, and Mastercam will automatically chain or select the entire closed shape. When I click OK, I'm going to then middle mouse button so I can see the isometric view a little bit, and you can see I have a solid here. This arrow I can drag up or down. I want it to go down, and I want this to be 25 millimeters thick. I also have options to go in both directions, rename it, and if I had additional solids on the screen, I can add a body to it or even cut shape out of it. We'll be doing that shortly. When I'm done, I'll click OK, and you'll notice now on level 101, I have one entity, which is a solid. If I go to the solids manager, you'll see I have two solids here. One is the guard, which we know is hidden. The other one is this solid. I can double click or right click and go to edit parameters, and it brings me back into the solid extrude function panel where I can then make additional changes to this feature. The solid is still selected because I selected it from the solids tree here, but if I click elsewhere, you'll notice the solid gets deselected. I'll go back to my levels manager. I'll go back to the top view, and I want to create additional wireframe geometry. So I'm going to create that wireframe geometry on level 106, and I'll make that the active level, and I'll turn off or hide level 101 for a minute. The next thing I want to do is create a circle, and that circle is going to be used for our G54 location. And that circle is going to be precisely 25 millimeters to the right and 25 millimeters down from this corner. So we can do that a bunch of different ways. One way would be to use the relative command. So again, I'm on level 106, which is my wireframe. I'll go to the wireframe tab and I'll click on circle. The relative command works by holding down the shift key. When I hold down the shift key and then select the center point, I'm actually going to be placing the center point relative to this location. So the prompt says use the gnomon to define the relative position and then press enter. Well, enter is the key word here. So if I click on my x-axis here and I drag over, notice I can drag over as far as I want here. If I need a precise value, I can simply type it in, 25, enter to update it, enter to accept the x value. We'll do the same thing for the y. We'll go down, minus 25, and then 25 to accept. And now we positioned the gnomon into the new location, And it says here, use Nomen to define the relative position, then press enter. So now we just simply have to press enter to locate the center of the circle. Now I'm going to place the circle there, and the diameter will be 30. And I'll click OK when done. Now another easier way of doing it would be to create a rectangle. So I'm just going to simply delete this for now. I select it on my screen with the mouse, and then I hit delete on the keyboard. If I create a rectangle, starting from here, go down to there, and this will be 25 in X and minus 25 in Y. That point right there is the center of my circle. Then I go into the circle mode, click there, diameter of 30. Either one creates the same shape. Now what I'm going to do is window select just this geometry here to make sure just 4 lines get selected, then hit delete on my keyboard. At this point, we'll turn on level 101. I'll make it active, and if I middle mouse, we can rotate around. I'm going to then use this geometry to cut a hole in my solid. I'll go back to the solids command, click and extrude. I'm going to chain this circle, and I'll click OK. Here, I'm not going to create a body. I'm going to cut body, which will remove material away. I'm going to go down into the part a little bit. I'm going to enter a value of 12 millimeters. So this will now be the G54 location for our fixture plate. I'm going to now turn on level 10 so I can see the part. Now I'll right click and go to the top view. I'm going to right click and go to fit. And then I can use the locations of these holes on my part to create circles on my fixture. I'm still on level 101, which is where my solid is. I'm going to go back to level 106, which is where my wireframe geometry is. I'm going to go to the wireframe tab, click and circle, and I know that I want to create 16 millimeter diameter circles. So by typing in 16, I can then lock that value, and now I can just place 16 millimeter diameter circles wherever I want. I'm going to place one right here, one right there, one at the center of this circle right here, and if you hover over the edge, you'll notice it snaps to it. And again, that's because of our auto cursor we reviewed back early on in this course. I can automatically tell it to snap to an arc center, but we have settings turned on, and those settings are always looking for arc centers. That's why it's working pretty conveniently for us. Right there. And one more, which is relative. From this corner, we're going to hold down the shift key, click there, and we want this one to go over 110 millimeters. Enter, enter, and then down negative 55, minus 55, enter, enter, then enter for the actual location of the circle. Now we're going to click OK. So we just created 4 circles. To look at those little circles, let's turn off the solid geometry for our part, and you'll notice that we have those 4 circles created. Now the reason they're created on this face is because we have our geometry construction mode set to 2D. If this was set to 3D and we had our part geometry visible, if I happen to select this entity as the location of the circle, my circle would have been created up there. Same for up here, and potentially my circle could have been created on this circular edge right up here. But since we're set to 2D, it's going to respect the construction plane we're on and the fact that we're at a Z level of minus 15.5. I'll go into isometric and we'll create one last solid feature here. I'm going to turn off level 10. I'll make level 101 the active level. Again, that's my solid geometry. I'm going to go to solids, extrude, and I'm going to select this geometry right here to create a cut. And we're going to cut the body through all. And just note the arrow, it's trying to cut up. I'm just going to flip that around, and now it's cutting down. And just to recap, if we go to our Solids Manager, you'll see we now have 3 solid features. We have the plate, the circular cut, and then the circular cut we just did right now. In the next lessons, we're going to build on this by creating additional features that will help us hold our part.